tempted to. Yes.
Like you're running out.
I did. I didn't realize you were playing last night. Oh, I didn't see you. Which we got blue or white? Okay, so you guys lost. Sorry to hear that. Well, they said they hadn't beat you guys in a while.
No, they haven't.
I know. I was just talking about trying to go put that together today. I'm like, well, I got 3 hours of footage, 2 hours for my camera, and then an hour on the GoPro. So it's a lot of stuff to go through.
Well, I'm the one with the green stick tape.
Okay, no, I remember that stick.
Okay.
Number 11, like everybody else.
Yeah, lots of number 11.
No, I'll definitely, when I go through, I'm going to go back and put it together. So if I can, I'm going to put you on.
Okay.
Were you on, do you remember playing with Kevin when he had the GoPro on at all? Any interaction, like run into him or anything?
I think I did, yeah. I ran into Kevin, I think, once.
Okay, I'll definitely going to take a look.
Okay.
If I can use it, I'll let you know.
All right.
Perfect.
What's that?
Kurt, how long till the big day?
Good, how are you?
Yeah. Good. Well, I guess.
They turned it on and it wasn't.
what happened offshore and our role in the overall operation. However, we cannot talk about the specifics of our role during recovery or the specifics of any items recovered beyond what currently exists in the public record. Due to the sensitivity of the ongoing investigation, questions of that nature need to be directed to the U.S. Coast Guard, which is overseeing this investigation. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Edward.
As we start today, and we start this conversation that we're going to have, I want to ask us to keep grounded in the solemnity of this event. Throughout the entire evolution of this response, this same fundamental focus was at the core of how all of our teams did their job. During the urgency of the rescue at hand, we were always conscious of the crew of the Titan, their families and friends, and the safety of all the responders. We focused our effort to arrive on the site of Titanic, prepared to rescue Titan. I have to acknowledge our team here. Many of them are heading home. Many of them are still traveling, and we have team members here. I just want to point out Jesse Doran, who's our ROV manager, director of operations, and other members of the team here. The first thing I'm going to do is give you a timeline of events, give you a sense of the sequence. So it started June 18th, Sunday, the loss of the communications and tracking to Titan. About 17:45, local noon time, Eastern Daylight Time, we were contacted by OceanGate. I landed at JFK Airport at around 11 o'clock and was in conversation with their director of operations immediately, assessed the situation, and we were asked to activate our deepwater remotely operated vehicle system, Odysseus 6K. We immediately began assembling a team, sending some to St. John's immediately, and sending others here to East Aurora. On June 19th, which is Monday, PRS began packing and mobilizing the Odysseus 6K ROV. Throughout the day, PRS staff arrived on site, and by late afternoon, PRS was at Buffalo Niagara International Airport, mobilized for deployment, where 2 U.S. Air Force C-17s were waiting for us. With the equipment staged at the airport, PRS awaited arrival of yet another C-17 with additional equipment required to not only load our kit at Buffalo, but to offload it at St. John's, Newfoundland International Airport. Tuesday, June 20th, 0400, we began loading to the 3 C-17s at the airport. We soon departed, arriving at St. John's, Newfoundland in the early afternoon. All 3 aircraft sequenced, all 3 aircraft organized in a manner to require the most efficient mobilization to the ship Horizon Arctic, which was waiting for us. The offload was immediate and focused. Awaiting us was a ship and a team and a community ready to engage us, to get us onto the ship, and to get us underway. The last load, container, ship, the truck arrived at the pier side, 2300 on June 20th. The ship was underway the next day, June 21st, at 0530. From the last truck arriving to us leaving the pier was about 5.5 to 6 hours. 70,000 pounds of equipment. Ship underway, site of Titanic, and the loss of, or the missing submersible at this point, of course, was Titan. I just want to emphasize the whole response team that we were going to integrate into was underway. There were at least 10 ships and aircraft active already on site. Odysseus 6K, as the 6,000-meter mobile ROV system, became the primary asset focused on rescue. Underway to the site, we finished the integration and activation of the vehicle and rigged it for rescue. Plain and simple, we're focused on rescue. We arrived on site less than 24 hours later. 0430 local mean times, the Horizon Arctic, integrated into the ongoing and multinational rescue effort. At that point, within an hour, 0530, our system was launched from the back deck and began to descend to the seafloor. Shortly after arriving on the seafloor, we discovered the debris of the Titan submersible. Of course, we continued to document the site, and by 12 o'clock, sadly, a rescue turned into a recovery. I have to apologize, we're still demobilizing. A lot of emotions, people are tired. During this period, upon arriving on site, we have to point out that the U.S. Coast Guard Incident Command reached out to the families of the Titan crew upon our discovery of the debris. A very important communication. We can then continue then, of course, to perform an operation from rescue to recovery. So from basically June 22nd till June 27th at 9:30, our teams, and I say our teams because it was the integrated team of the Horizon Arctic and the Pelagic team, and many, many, many others. So we're conducting 24-hour ROV operations as directed by the on-site commander. We will, of course, use our heavy lift capability to recover all the objects of interest as directed by the incident response. Just to complete the timeline for you, on June 28th, 0730 local mean time, St. John's, Newfoundland, Horizon Arctic with the Pelagic Embark team arrived at the Canadian Coast Guard base, where wreckage was offloaded and our demobilization began. Today is June 30th, and it's 24 hours ago we were on site. We really have to take that into perspective. Before taking questions, a few more points. We're still reviewing the sequence of events that we were a part of. During the drive from New York, JFK to here, the incident command structure, of course, had been activated for a few days, and that integrated command structure that we were participating in was being facilitated by Vice Admiral William J. Galanis, who's the commander of Naval Sea Systems Command. So after OceanGate had activated us, we were immediately blended into the incident command structure. I ask us all here today to recognize the seriousness of the event and respect the depth and range of emotions, certainly and most importantly, the family and friends of the Titan and all those in the response. I'm happy to take questions.
What was it like at that moment of discovery of debris, if you can, and I know, again, it's emotional for you, but if you can describe what happened, what kind of protocol did you follow?
There was clearly, when we arrived on site, we were the primary identified asset to effect rescue. There was a fleet of ships. We came in next to a ship called Deep Energy, an industry ship. Their vehicle was at 2,700 meters. They were not capable of going deeper. But I want to point out that Deep Energy they had 2 ROVs. Prior to our arrival on site, they had sent 1 ROV to seafloor beyond their depth capability. And it unfortunately mechanically had an issue. But that is just the scope of the effort. They lost a vehicle trying to get to seafloor. So when we arrived on site, we were slotted as primary. We came right next to Deep Energy. We're in a 400-foot ship. Deep Energy is a 700-foot ship. We were 75 meters apart. They had a lifting line at 3,000 meters, waiting to recover. Our focus, our plan was to integrate the lifting mechanism into the center core and the lifting capabilities of Odysseus 6K. So our plan of rescue was to immediately, upon finding Titan, latch onto her as quickly as possible and begin recovery. There were protocols in the event of the scenario of viability and non-viability. So it was one. There were ships, we were moving assets under the integration and coordination with Incident Command and the team on Deep Energy. But because we were primary, they were asking us to make the decisions about how the various assets would move. So when we did discover the wreck of the Titan, a different sets of protocols.
Were you aware of what OceanGate was doing prior to this whole event taking place?
It's a very small community, so the answer is yes.
Your thoughts on what they were doing?
I mean, I really don't have I don't have necessarily an opinion on that. There's a strong investigation going on right now. Explorers, people who seek to be on the ocean, to go to depth, it's very compelling. We certainly share those desires. Our whole company is designed to support research and science at depth. So it was a passion and a joy for exploration. So.
Now, can you talk about the technology of the Odysseus?
Sure, yeah. So the Odysseus 6K is a remotely operated vehicle, meaning it operates from a ship through a tether. This is the control room of the system. This is actually the full kit as it is mobilized onto a ship. So it's a compact, mobile, 6,000-meter deep water system. And that's one of its key design characteristics. We've always known and we've always wanted to be available for these types of situations. Wish the call never came, but we wanted to be ready when it did. And so it's designed to withstand depths up to 6,000 meters. All the equipment, everything on there, has to operate at that depth. Importantly, it has 7-function manipulators, high-definition 4K cameras, heavy lift capability, a multiplicity of tools to allow us to do work at depth.
Where was Odysseus built? Were you involved in the construction of this ROV, and where was it actually built? And is it housed here normally?
So Odysseus 6K is our design, and it was built by MPH Engineering in Largo, Florida. A very strong collaboration with the fabricator, and we worked together to build this system. It first became operational in 2016. And our primary market is deep sea science. So we work a lot with the University of Victoria, Ocean Networks Canada as an example, NOAA and other groups. This is our operational base. We're a mobile system, so in a sense we can be anywhere.
So this gets lowered. What part of this that we're looking at gets, is that what ends up on the floor?
This entire vehicle goes to the seafloor. What you're seeing here is an integrated launch and recovery system. You can barely see the umbilical here. This allows the vehicle to be taken off deck, rotated over the side, and then lowered to the seafloor. In this image here, you can see the whole setup, right? So here's our integrated launch and recovery system, our winch with 7,000 meters of umbilical, control room, which is there, workshop. We're independent of a ship, and that's part of our plan, right? We need to come in and function immediately. And I say that, but I also need to point out that the success, or the opportunity for success, the opportunity to be on site and achieve what we all hope we would achieve, is a function of integrating with the ship. We have a philosophy called the one team. It has to work. The ship crew, the embarked science, or in this case, the other personnel, and our ROV team have to become one team. It's a very dangerous thing that happens out there. Just offloading from a truck. Just offloading it from a truck is dangerous. We have to keep, our thing is safety first. Safety of personnel, number one. Safety of equipment, number two. And objectives, number three. Now, I will say, we pushed something, and everybody pushed something on this response.
Now, you said that's a unique design for you guys, right? This was your design. Are you the only ones with equipment capable to go down that low and recover what you did based on the fact that the other ship, their unit malfunctioned?
It didn't malfunction, but they pushed it beyond its depth rating.
So is your machine one of the few that can actually go down that far and be okay?
Yes. I mean, there are other systems like it, certainly. They exist in many parts of the world. But I think what makes our system somewhat unique is its capabilities and its mobility.
You might want to speak to the fact that the continued operations really is a testament to the design and the functionality. We're looking at a almost flawless operation 24/7.
I think that's a very good point. I mean, in some ways, I think, as we look back at this, which we will, it was unprecedented in a sense, our ability to arrive at seafloor and then go to work. And then we worked for another 5 or 6 days at 3,800 meters. And then we began the recovery operations, which in and of themselves are quite challenging.
Can you discuss a little bit again? You mentioned your rescue. You were rigged for rescue. Would the articulating arms have been able to, say, attach a cable to Titan if it had not imploded to try to lift it off the surface or the seafloor? Is that kind of what you were getting there?
Yeah, we felt we'd be faced with 4 potential scenarios. Of course, the scenario we wanted was Titan just lightly on the seafloor, the crew intact, the pressure vessel intact. That would have made the sub slightly negative or maybe slightly buoyant. What we did is we tied a lifting mechanism into the center core of the vehicle, which we could not detach. Right? The sub was not being tracked. They lost tracking and communication, which we didn't know where it was. And subsea navigation and knowing where you are is essential for safe operations. We were tracking our vehicle. So once the plan was to grab the Titan. And once grab the Titan with our manipulator, then we had it. Then it was going to be attaching beacons. We were carrying extra beacons, so if we lost her, other assets could track her. And then we were going to attach this heavy lift capability to the sub. At that point, we would begin recovery. So the additional planning included the other ROVs that were right with us. They were holding at 2,700 meters. The Horizon Arctic itself had another ROV. We were prepared, that vehicle was prepared to launch. We were prepared to launch that second vehicle to, once we came through 3,000 meters, then these other vehicles could join us. And they would also grab them. Didn't want to lose them. And then at that point, we begin the translation to the heavy lift line that Deep Energy had. And I can't say enough about the professionalism and the preparation of the entire response that allowed us to come in as primary and have that waiting. And it's a little hard to explain. The visual, of course, is in all of our head, but that was a real opportunity.
As you sat in this control room and with the monitors, the time ticked away. Obviously, there's a lot of talk, of course, about the oxygen running out. Can you kind of describe the mood in the room for you and the crew, and really the pressure that you were feeling as time kind of ticked away?
I can answer that actually pretty simple. We were focused on the job at hand. That's what we do. That's what all of us do. We were laser focused on rescue. Of course, we had to describe several scenarios, but we were not set for anything else but recovering that submersible. And that's what everything was for. So it was laser focused. Job at hand, safety, get it done.
And so the debris that did come up, that was your machine, the Odysseus, that brought that up?
Yes.
How many crew members were with you from your team?
It's really hard to do. I mean, our team was 9, but we immediately integrated into a larger structure on Horizon Arctic. For example, their own ROV had 6 crew. They became part of our team, this concept of one team. The entire crew of the Arctic, the captain, Adam Myers, and I worked, seamlessly together. We had our supervisors, our dive supervisors. So, you know, I was saying Jesse was running the entire deck ops for us, you know, the whole ROV operation. But our team, we assembled an expert team that has worked with us for the years, and that was part of the opportunity for success, right? Is that you have to have, we talk a lot about equipment, but it's really ultimately about people. And we are really fortunate to have great people, and we're really fortunate to move into an environment where they were equally high-level professionals.
Has rescue and recovery been part of your plan right from the beginning, or is this something new that you confronted?
We always knew that we'd be called at some point, and so we prepared the system for that. We could have been out on a job and we wouldn't have been out there, right? There were other assets that mobilized as well. There was a French ship with their vehicle. They were very importantly there back, and they were, it was not a race, it's just everybody was going there. And we had been designated primary because the thought was we would be arriving on site first, which we did.
How much did this cost?
A lot.
Billions, millions? Or are you not? We're not. Okay.
Is this?
From failure comes advancement. What have you guys learned that will advance the undersea exploration?
I think there's a lot to learn. I think we're very proud of the performance of our system. It performed. Our team performed. It actually achieved the mission at hand. We were very saddened we couldn't recover a viable site. But beyond that, the system performed. Down the road, there are certainly things that we'll think about, but we haven't had time to discuss.
With the solemnity of the event here, knowing that, but also there's this, I got to tell you, there's a strong sense of pride in this community that you're here. Some people have said, you know, why weren't they over at the coast? I know you're in South Wellfleet, Massachusetts. You mentioned Santa Barbara. What was it about East Aurora that you decided to establish your base here? And we don't want you to leave, but is there any discussion, perhaps, to have you on a coastal, more of a coastal environment?
We're a mobile system. We just got to St. John's, Newfoundland, in probably less than 30 hours. So we're designed for mobility. So in a sense, we can be anywhere. But I've talked about people and community, and I really want to say this, that, and I'm going to describe this community. This is one community of probably dozens of communities around the world that came together. And that's why we were successful in getting this system mobilized to the airport, to St. John's, onto the ship, onto site, onto the community. And so we are also happy to be here, and we have no intent to leave.
What ties you to East Aurora exactly, though? I mean, well, what brings this at least this base of operations to the village?
That guy over there. And if I always say $1,000 for every time somebody asks me that question, I might be retired. But I say this, right? We have, so Eric Peterson is here. Eric is an MPH engineering. He designed and built this vehicle with us, and is another example of the expertise that needs to come together to create something like this. But not only is the design solid, but the operational capability. When I called, and Eric is one of, you know, half a dozen to a dozen individuals we called who just dropped everything. They came from Skagway, from Vancouver, British Columbia, from Austin, Texas, from Louisiana, you know, from Newfoundland, from Nova Scotia, to assemble and to make this a reality.
Now with the Odysseus 6K, just to clarify, it wasn't based here, but I mean, what is done here? I mean,
It is based here.
It is based here. Okay.
It's normally you wouldn't be able to stand where you're standing.
Okay.
But we like it when it's not here because it means it's working. But we also like it when it is here.
When will it be back here?
It's arriving on Monday. So currently, you know, it's on trucks, 3 trucks, and it's heading back here.
We talked to Will Conan, who you may know at Hydrospace out in California, another undersea exploration expert. And he has said that in light of this tragedy, he would hope that other exploration firms like OceanGate would consider having your equipment either on site or standing by, God forbid it was needed. Do you think that would also be a future mission for you to work more so with these companies? As you said, they got them out, they called you immediately and said, get out here as soon as you can. But would you expect in the future you'll be doing more of that just in case, God forbid, we have another situation like this?
I think certainly, you know, we want to make ourselves available as the environment requires. So we would certainly consider, you know, we work in the science world, we support the exploration community, you know, so of course.
Well, the Great Lake.
The efficiency of deployment, the efficiency of integrating with other crew teams. How does that happen?
Deal with professionals. You have to have good leadership. You have to have trust and faith that the folks that are experts will execute on their job. And that happens over time. It happens with experience. It works.
You know, I can't imagine you would be able to train for this kind of stuff too often. It's so expensive. But I mean, how do you get that level of efficiency? It can't just be a bunch of professionals. They might have different ideas of how things go.
The folks that are great at this come from a variety of communities. They can be auto mechanics that have a passion for the ocean and have a skill with their hands. They can be trained formulated pilots. They can have a passion for engineering. It's a combination of skills and personality that make for success. You have to have experience. I mean, there's no question that you have to gain experience because it's a very complex operation, fraught with danger, but high reward.
Can I make a request?
Well, you should also point out that there is a very experienced and structured chain of command. It's not a group of people just racing together and calling their own shots.
Yeah, I mean, a ship environment at sea, operations they're structured. There's hierarchy. There's a level of communication and action, and it's because of, and that's true whenever you're operating in a dangerous environment. It's especially true when you're at sea. I mean, the captain is in fact ultimately in command, and so working very closely with Adam Myers, we had to form an immediate bond and level of trust with each other, and that was incredible.
With just with you guys being based so close to the Great Lakes, is that kind of a nice? I know they're not as deep as maybe the ocean, but are those nice little testing grounds where you do go out and kind of test some equipment and other things with the Great Lakes available?
We love to go to the Great Lakes. Haven't been there yet. There's some great things to look at. We have a test tank that's outside there, so we actually test our vehicle just in that tank out there. And that allows us to run it and be prepared. In a sense, that's what we did. Vehicles in a ready state. So we need an invite. Moving 70,000 pounds of equipment is not inexpensive.
Mr. Cassetto, I know you're the captain, they're probably going to hide, but the gentleman who designed it, I think that is you, sir, I don't know. Is there anything you'd be willing to say just watching this machine actually doing what it did? Not to gloat, but to know that what you built really was an integral part of this process. Is there anything you'd care to say?
I'm just glad that...
Would you be able to say it up there, sir?
I probably could, yeah.
Okay. I know, we're a pain.
And I just want to, let's say, Eric, please do that, but I'd like to keep it with here because these guys have been through a lot.
We understand. Just what was going, when you saw Odysseus working, I mean, this was the machine that you kind of brought to life, if you will. What was going through your mind seeing how it was performing?
I don't know, I think that moment it wasn't so much about, something that I had done. It was kind of just the whole, it was a much bigger picture at that moment. It was a much bigger picture. It wasn't me or that. It was the entirety of what was happening.
Right, but I guess what I was just getting at, that it was working the way you hoped it. You knew it would, but you also hoped it would.
Yeah.
At that depth, just to see it working, I guess.
I mean, everything was in this, confidence that of course it's going to work, but still back of your head, you know, it's like if it ever wasn't going to, please don't be right now. But it worked great.
I think the thing to say is that there's a collective team that's involved in going to operations. And so the spares and the expertise of the team allow us to enter into an environment with confidence. But things break, and it's not a design issue, it's just you're putting hydraulics, fiber optics, electrical, and you're throwing it over the side of a saltwater environment and driving it down 4,000 meters. So things do go wrong. You have to fix it, and that requires the proper equipment, the proper sparing, and the proper team.
Sir, what was your first and last name?
Eric Peterson.
Eric, real quick, can you discuss your ties to the community? Did you grow up here? Did you?
I'm from Clearwater, Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got called Sunday night, and I was on a plane Monday morning.
I'm sorry, Eric, could you give us your last name and spelling?
Peterson, P-E-T-E-R-S-O-N.
Okay, and again, the company you're with?
MPH Engineering.
MPH in Key Largo. Okay.
Largo.
Okay, all right, thank you.
How long did it take to get from surface to seafloor?
Yes, thanks.
It's about an hour and a half. And that's normally, it's faster than we normally do. We talk about some of the changes that we made, and then the ones are descent. So we normally descend at 25 meters a minute. Team had it descending at 35 meters.
How did the company end up in East Aurora? Do you live in East Aurora?
Jesse Dorn lives in East Aurora, and we talk about people and the importance of people, the importance of keeping the equipment in a ready state. So it made total sense for us to be here and for it to be maintained and then operated. So this is our operational base. We begin.
And if I can just touch on just to follow up on the engineering and the capability of the machine, I'm sure by following the story, you all read about the extreme environment. I mean, this is the currents and the pressures, very prevalent. And the fact that the Odysseus was able to operate 24/7, almost flawlessly. If you're in the deep ocean community, that's remarkable. So I again, what Eric has been able to achieve really needs to be underscored because this is unprecedented.
And you said an hour and a half to the floor, and then how long after that did you spot the Titan? Okay. And is that the control room? Is that aboard the Arctic, did you say?
No, this is from another project.
Oh,
this
okay.
That's where the vehicle is operating from.
Could you spell your last name for us, please?
Sure, it's Cassano. C-A-S-S-A-N.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much.
All right.
And thank you.
Thanks. All right, thank you, everybody. That concludes our presentation, our briefing. I hope you have a safe holiday weekend. Thank you for being here, and we appreciate you supporting both Pelagic, East Aurora, and our presence.
Stuff on 236, we're all set. Thank you.